Zoom. What did we get today, Gary? Well, obviously, it's a GKD Pixel from our friends at Go Game Geek. Thanks again, Go Game Geek. This is about the size of a pack of cards. Heck, pack of cigarettes. Anyone still smoke? I don't, but you can put it in your sleeve, roll it up, look like a street tough from the 50s. Oh, heck, let's see what we got in the box. Oh, jeez. Wait a minute. Let's rip it in pieces first. Ooh. I really wanted the disgusting purple and green Joker-looking model, but they didn't have one, so I got the red. Comes with a start guide. Little, I don't know, is that a baby? Pretty bare bones. How to turn it off, how to charge it, how to adjust brightness, manuals, etc. And the main shebang. Ooh, I like that. Now, it is small. We'll do some comparisons here in a second, but it's premium. It's got a nice aluminum, I think. Painted aluminum. It's light. I think the specs say it's a little bit under 4 ounces. Very little rattle. It's got 4 shoulder buttons. These L2 and R2, those will be hard to get to. But luckily, this thing caps out at PlayStation 1. So you're probably not going to be using them outside of hotkeys or stuff like that. It's a very precise D-pad. I like that. Select, start, clicky. Buttons have a lot of travel to them. Not too bad right off the bat. You have your volume up and down on the side. You have a menu button, power button, USB-C on the bottom, and headphone jacks on the bottom. I like that. Looks like there's just a couple screws holding everything in place if you had to get in there. Oh yeah, and you got your micro SD card. Let's do some quick comparisons. Now this reminds me the most of the RG Nano, which is so tiny. I beat a game of the month on this just to prove that I could, but it wasn't a super fun experience. This is hyper niche. This is definitely a keychain kind of thing. Painted aluminum, sturdy, same kind of deal basically. And you can definitely see the size comparison. This was difficult to play. This might not be super difficult to play. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the original Miyoo Mini. You can definitely see the GKD Pixel is smaller, but it's not absurdly small. So you have too cold, too warm, and just right? Question mark. We'll see. Let's turn this sucker on. Ooh, little LEDs on the side. Ooh, I like that. So straight out of the box, you have emulators, you have games, you have RetroArch directly, test, apps, and settings. So let's see emulators. You have MAME, an airplane, DOS. You'd have to be pretty devoted to play a DOS game on here. Bunch of different arcade stuff. Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, Handy, not that one. Java, MAME again. You got some Sega stuff, Neo Geo Pocket, Open BOA, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, TurboGrafx, and Master System, and your WonderSwan Color. Now under games, looks like there's a couple different ports. You got Cave Story, obviously you have Cave Story. You have RetroArch, which these are specific emulators, so it looks like under the regular one, you have GBA.RE. I don't know what that is, but if you go to RetroArch, you have GPSP and MGBA. You also have different options for your Famicom, Easy RPG, Game Boy, all that jazz. Test, looks like these are maybe some emulators that aren't quite ready for showtime, but you can still mess with them. Virtual Boy, you got apps, you got your music players, input testers, text editor, file manager, video player, and image viewer. So you can use this as a little multimedia device if you wanted to. Maybe throw some songs on here. It does have that headphone jack on the bottom. You could use it as an MP3 player if you wanted. I still think the Nano is more of an MP3 player that has games on it. This would be a handheld that also has an MP3 player. Let's do a little bit of gameplay here. The speakers on this thing are loud. So your R2 saves and your L2 fast forwards. Speaker test. It gets really loud, and it's actually rather clear. And then your menu button takes you back here, where in addition to display settings, audio settings, input settings, hotkeys, cheats, and whatever, you have save states. So you can just save. Let's save. There you go. Now it's saved. You can also exit. There's a pretty decent amount of ROMs on here. It's a 64 gigabyte card, and since this does max out at PlayStation 1 as far as performance goes, you're going to have really, really full libraries of all your lower end stuff, and maybe just a couple PlayStation games that you really want to play on here. Some of the stuff's actually scraped. Neat. Whoa. I'm holding this in a very specific way because the screen is so small. I want to get it on camera. Outside of me holding it like this in a weird way, I would normally be playing it like this. And honestly, it's not ideal. If this was my only video game system, my hands would hurt a lot. But for, I don't know, 15 minutes in the car waiting outside of the doctor's office or waiting for your kid to get dismissed from school or something, this is pretty slick. And you can also just kind of throw it in your pocket. It's relatively sturdy. The screen is recessed enough that it's probably not going to get too dinged up. I wouldn't throw it in the same pocket with your keys, but maybe in the glove box of your car, the little center console or your jacket pocket, you should be fine. I think the size and the relative ergonomics are not bad. It's definitely not as goofy as the RG Nano, and it's not as comfortable as the Miyoo Mini just because it's smaller. But I tell you what, speaking of the Miyoo Mini, this would probably be really good for one-handed Pokemans or other role-playing games. You could just kind of do. Heck, you know what? Why am I telling you? Let's just show you. Okay. So long, sis. Never gonna see you again. Where's that dang professor? So yeah, I mean, you could, whatever hand you prefer, you could definitely play this one-handed, or you can use your shoulder buttons, like there's fast forward on here. Fast forward, super helpful with an old Pokemon game. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah, I'm helping you, whatever. Give me the Pokédex, ding-a-ling. I mean, it's pretty good with PlayStation. I got the FPS turned on. You can see I'm 59, 58. Getting my butt kicked because I'm not paying attention. Whoa, Paul! So, I'm bad at Tekken, but you can play PlayStation games on here. I probably only do RPGs or stuff where you're not frantically moving around, because it is pretty small. It's definitely a niche handheld, right? It's not my ultimate PlayStation handheld. It's niche. But, you know what? You can play a lot of PlayStation on here, which is pretty cool. So I think my main complaint with this is the front end. This is very much like Open Dingus 2020. It's serviceable. It does what you need it to do. You can get to your games, you can get to your emulators, you can get to your standalone games, you can change your settings, you can do all sorts of stuff. It's just not super elegant. However, you can put MinUi on here. Now the problem up until now with MinUi on here is that some of these cores that you can pick on the stock firmware aren't easily available through MinUi. Let's say MinUi is locked down to GPSP, but you want to use MGBA. You like MGBA and certain games run better. Up until now, MinUi, it wasn't easy to rectify that. However, my close personal friend, Russell Decor from Retro Game Decor, has assembled a couple little fixes, and he has a little patch, which is kind of ironic because I got into the whole retro handheld scene with his Simple 30 fix that he put together with Tech Toy Tinkerer and a couple other people I'm probably forgetting. So it's a nice little circle around. So we're going to install MinUi on here, and then we're going to install the little helper hotfix thing that our friend Russell Decor put together. And we're going to come back and we're going to show you what this looks like with some nice, fully baked custom firmware on here. So I'll see you after the flip. Whip! Installing MinUi is actually really, really easy. You just have to follow the instructions, copy 2 folders over, run the SH file to install it, then pop your SD card back out, copy over all the file structure, and then move your ROMs over. And then this little add-on from Russell Decor gives you extra folders. So if, say, Tekken doesn't play real good on the default PlayStation emulator, you can use the alternate one. And to do that, all you gotta do is put your problematic ROMs into the alternate folder. It's just that easy. All right, after all that fiddle farting around, let's turn it back on and see what happens. There we go. MinUi's on there, and we have our arcade, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Neo Geo, all the stuff we had before. Well, I didn't bother to bring over Virtual Boy games and some of the systems that I have no business playing. But for the most part, everything is there. And MinUi is a much sleeker, much more, well, frankly, minimalist. That's where the name's from. Minimalist kind of front end that goes very well with a low end, specialist, niche kind of handheld like this. It does support folder structures, so you could dump them all in one and sort them out that way, or you could just keep the folder structures that came on the card. It's fundamentally unfair that this guy has giant razors on his hands. Whoa. Yeah, you ripped his guts out. So the way I set it up, I used Russell Decor's extended pack, and it uses the emulator from the stock version. So when you press the menu button, you go to the emulator menu. But like Game Boy, let's play some Dr. Mario. and you press your menu button, you are in your MinUI. So the way you set up your folder structure, if a game is not supported by MinUI or the stock MinUI emulator runs kind of like crap, you can put it in the alternate folder and it seamlessly will open it. A really good example of this is for PlayStation. So I have, let's just open up the beginning of Symphony of the Night. So Symphony of the Night is playing fine with the stock emulator. And then if I press the menu button, you get your normal MinUI setup with all your regular options. However, I set Tekken to use the stock emulator. So if I press the menu button, it's running PCSX for all. That's the one that came with the stock. You can use the folder structure, put your hard to run games in that folder. It'll use that. Your easier to run games in your regular, seamlessly integrated through the front end. As you can see, it's not like I have to go into a sub menu for Tekken. So yeah, with MinUI and our friend Russell Decor's little smart hacks, you get a really full-featured experience with the GKD Pixel. I added probably 20 seconds of footage of me copying stuff over, but if you want a better guide, again, Russell Decor has a pretty full-featured guide. You can check out my guide on installing MinUI on the 35XX Plus, but it is pretty simple, and unless you're real finicky, you can just copy it over on stock for the GKD Pixel. I did. No ill effects so far, as it turns off. Hello? There it is. Well, on that note, it's time for What Did We Learn? We learned that the GKD Pixel is a pretty premium, kind of niche, micro handheld. It's not as small as the RG Nano. It's not as big as the Miyoo Mini. It's, maybe, for you, just right. I really like it. It's $90 at GoGameGeek, although we do have a 10% off coupon, so it's almost $80. It has a 2.4-inch IPS screen. The thing itself is only a little bit over 3 inches tall. A lot of it is screen. I think the ratio and proportion are actually pretty good. It's metal. It feels sturdy. There is a screen protector available. I would not recommend putting this in your pocket with your keys and your change, but in an empty pocket, maybe a side pocket where you're not going to sit on it, it should be fine. This painted aluminum, I feel like it will scratch. I've had other stuff that eventually scratched. I'm not going to ruin it, but I'm pretty sure it'll scratch. It comes with a 64GB card that has pretty much all the games you're ever going to want on here. The only thing I would recommend is, for PlayStation at least, you might want to delete something that's on there that you're not going to play, or just kind of curate what you're going to add. Or, heck, get a 128GB card and load it up with all your favorite PlayStation ROMs, and you'd be good to go. But the only real limitation with the ROMs and with performance is the top end of PlayStation. So, proceed accordingly. This also has a 1300 milliamp hour battery, which will get you 3, maybe 4 hours of performance. In my case, where I play for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, turn it off, put it in my car, I haven't had to charge it in a week or two. If you're going to play for 4 hours straight, you're going to have to charge it. So, despite the fact that it has a 4-hour battery, I think the way you're going to play this, it'll probably play longer, if that makes any sense. It is a little bit expensive. At $81 with free shipping after coupon on GoGameGeek, or $80 elsewhere. You might be able to find it cheaper on AliExpress, but we'll say $80 to $90. It's a little bit pricey for what it is. I mean, you can get a Miyoo Mini on the secondary market or from some places for 40, 50, 60 bucks. But this is, I think, niche. It's highly specialized, and I really like it. I like this a lot more than I thought I would. Like, I've been using this a lot on the go, and I think the reason I do is because it's easier to transport, it's very pocketable, and it's small enough I can just kind of take this out and play a couple minutes, waiting in line somewhere, or my kids are at dance practice or gymnastics or something. I can just kind of play. Whereas if I had like an X55 with me, I can't just pull this out of my coat pocket. Even something like the 35XX, it's pocketable, super pocketable, but this, I feel like it's more stealth. Like I could just kind of, oh hey, what's up, Pokemon? You can also definitely one-hand this son of a gun, which helps if you're kind of sitting there, watching something and not really paying attention. If you wanted to grind in an RPG or try to find shinies while you're watching TV at the same time, definitely a good use case for it. However, it is $80, so that's up to you. Is $80 worth it for this niche kind of thing? Maybe. I will say though, the RG Nano is like straight gimmick territory. This is one that I keep finding myself coming back to. I don't know why. It has a charm to it. I really like it. I really wish they would have sent me that purple and green one, though. That was pretty cool. But red is quite beautiful. It's the same color as a car I used to have. Anyway, let us know what you think. Are you going to pick one of these things up? Did you like the video? Let us know in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.